So we went from this
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro. Free 10 dragons in the artisan world. Then find the balloonist. He'll transport you to the next world.
What about Nasty Nork? I'm going after him.
Find dragons first. That's all I can tell you.
to this.
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro. Free 10 dragons in the artisan world, then find the balloonist. He'll transport you to the next world.
What about Nasty Nork? I'm going after him.
Find dragons first. That's all I can tell you.
And we went from this to this. And we also went from this to this. Welcome back to Tex-Mex Nerd Feed, where we are dedicated to provoking discussion by proposing ideas and providing our opinion on your favorite nerd culture. So, the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, it was a phenomenon. What they did was they built a game up to match the exact gameplay, mechanics, and everything, every little tiny thing from an original game, and brought it into the modern era. So they improved on every aspect of the original game in order to let us 90s kids relive nostalgia. And it's an amazing game, so we got to make the original games somewhat obsolete and make the Spyro Reignited Trilogy the go-to, even though it does have its problems. So today, I'm going to go through a list of games that I would like to receive that same treatment that I call the Spyro Treatment. Now, there are a couple stipulations. Because Spyro is a 90s game, I decided to compile this list of games from consoles from that era. So I'm going to be going with the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64. Now, like I said, this channel is dedicated to creating discussion, so if you were a Dreamcast guy or gal, you can leave your preferences in the comment section below. It's just that I'm going to stick with what I know. So the second stipulation is I'm going to avoid IPs that have modern day iterations on our consoles. So, well, yes, I can say remake the original Spider-Man for the PlayStation 1. It would be kind of pointless with the fact that we have Spider-Man for PlayStation 4. Another example would be, I'm not going to suggest that they remake the original Madden when anybody can just play the modern Madden games. So, if it has sequels that improve upon the former, and it increases the graphical standard as it goes, then there's no point in remaking the original anyway. Now, a third stipulation, which is more of an exception, is I will include games from certain IPs if the original gameplay mechanics and gameplay style is different than what we get in modern era. So let's say I want to have them remake an original game that is a platformer, and nowadays it still has games coming out under that IP, but they're first-person shooters or action RPGs or something, then it no longer counts. It would still be something on its own that would be brought forth. So, as we said, the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, though it has its problems, I would still consider to be the go-to game if you were to introduce Spyro to somebody else, somebody new, a younger generation, somebody who's never heard of him before, whatever. I would recommend the Spyro Reignited Trilogy versus the original because they had brought the original to modern day. So this list is a list of games that I think deserve that treatment. So let's start with numero uno. So starting off the list with number 1 is Goldeneye 64. Now, GoldenEye 64 was released on the Nintendo 64 in North America on August 25th of 97. Now, GoldenEye is a first-person shooter. If you don't know what it is, it pretty much pioneered what first-person shooter multiplayer gameplay was going to be from that point forth. It is extremely fun. Now, it had a whole lot of control issues, being that the Nintendo 64 only had one analog stick, and using that one analog stick to move and aim is impossible. Well, I guess they proved that it wasn't impossible, but it is very hard. Now, I know that GoldenEye already had a remake, but that remake was garbage in comparison to the original. They redid the sound, they added new actors, they got Daniel Craig to be the James Bond versus Pierce Brosnan, and they changed so much. It was pretty much a remake. They didn't just take GoldenEye and bring it into modern day. So like I said before, what I want them to do is I want them to build a game from the bottom up to match exactly what GoldenEye was, but with more greatly enhanced graphics, more greatly enhanced art design, but keeping the same soundtrack, the same sounds, noises, and sound direction that they took in the original game, like they did with the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. They did have somebody kind of remaster and redo the music, but it was based solely off of the original soundtrack. They didn't completely change the songs for the soundtrack, they just improved upon the original. So GoldenEye is one of my favorite ideas for a Spyro treatment. Now, my second choice is an odd one, and I don't suspect a lot of people would be on board with it, but I am saying Pokemon Snap. Pokemon Snap was released on the Nintendo 64 in North America on June 30th of 1999. Now, I wouldn't say if they were to remake that game, give it the Spyro treatment, that they should charge the original $60. The $60 price point would definitely be a no-go, and you would have that Nintendo tax, so there's a good chance that that's what the price point would be. But if they remade it and they did maybe like a $20, $30 price point for it, then I would be all for it. Now, Pokemon Snap is a rail shooter. What you do is you travel through Pokemon-infested lands, and you take pictures of different Pokemon. I remember growing up, that game was astounding to me, just being able to make you feel like you're in a world of Pokemon. So, I could just imagine how much better that feeling would be if they were to make these Pokemon look even more realistic. I don't really suspect that this would happen with the upcoming Pokemon Sword and Shield game and with Pokemon Go on all of our phones, but it was still an idea. While I'm sitting here editing this video, I just remembered one thing, and that's that Nintendo Switch has VR Labo, or Labo, however you want to say it, and that the Pokemon Snap would be an awesome addition for that. If you remade Pokemon Snap just for that reason, I would most likely buy it. Now, my third option is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I have the fondest memories of it, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Now, we can go with all the Harry Potter games if you want to remake them and bring them into a modern era, but like I said, I'm sticking with this era, the PS1 and Nintendo 64 era, and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for PS1 was released in North America on November 15th of 2001. Now, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is an action-adventure game, and you take control of Harry Potter as he goes through his first year of wizarding school. So it seems like the game tries to replicate what the movies do, but also add more that you don't get that are in the books. Like you have Peeves, the poltergeist, and you have many more classes and so on and so forth. So it kind of adds on to what the movies provide. So I think that should be, like I said, the Spyro treatment. So improve on the visual aspect of every inch of this game except Hagrid. Keep Hagrid the way he is, just for comedic purposes.
And I'm the gamekeeper, of course. You'll need to attend your herbology.
Now, my number 4 choice is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. The original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game. Remake that in the Spyro way. Just kind of keep the original soundtrack, keep the original sounds, gameplay mechanics, and everything. Just kind of do better by your fans than what your fans got with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was released for the PlayStation 1 in North America on August 31st of 1999, and it was released for the Nintendo 64 on February 29th of 2000. Now, as you could assume, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is a skateboarding game. That's all there is to say about that. So, like I said, Spyro Treatment, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, mash them together, and give your fans what they deserve. Now, my number 5 choice is one that probably not many have heard about. It is a hidden gem on the Nintendo 64, and it is called Snowboard Kids. Now, Snowboard Kids was released on the Nintendo 64 in North America on March 15th of 98. So this is a snowboarding racing game, and it kind of took ideas from Mario Kart, whereas you collect defensive and offensive weapons to use against your opponents throughout. But looking at this gameplay here, just imagine how much better it would be and how much fun you would have with that, and it would supersede, in my opinion anyway, the Crash Team Racing game that we got. Like I said, for all of these, the Spyro treatment includes building the game up to match the exact image of the original game, just improved on the graphics significantly like we see with Spyro, but also keeping the original sound and soundtrack. Now, for me, the soundtrack for Snowboard Kids was one of the most nostalgic things I have ever experienced. It was our go-to game for my brother and I to play with the rest of the family. Now, we would play Donkey Kong 64 and Super Mario 64 on our own from time to time, but when we were having a fun family time and playing games together, this was the game that we were playing. Now, if they were to bring this game into the modern era, maybe more people would be able to play it, especially with how popular these types of games are nowadays. My number 6 spot goes to a more popular and mainstream racer that if you are not fond with the idea of a hidden gem racer, perhaps you'll be on board with this one. And it is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Now, this game is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the few games that when I was younger, I would just play through over and over and over again. Almost everybody loves the Star Wars franchise, so I don't really think that this would be too far of a stretch to sell a lot of copies, especially because pod racing is one of the few things that people really like from the not the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. Now, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer was released on Nintendo 64 in North America on May 18th of 1999. It is, like I said before, a racing game. My number 7 choice is an odd one. It's actually not one that I played when I was younger, but it's one that my brother played, and I think that it would really thrive with a Spyro treatment, and that is Army Men Sarges Heroes. Now, there are a lot of Army Men games, but this one is the one that I remember specifically, and I think would be a great way, or a great game to start with a Spyro treatment. Now, as you can see the gameplay that I have on the screen right now, just imagine that being brought into a modern era. Imagine that being brought to life like the original, like the original Spyro trilogy was brought to life with the Reignited Trilogy. Now, Army Men Sarges Heroes was released for PlayStation in North America on February 22nd of 2000 and Nintendo 64 on September 28th of 1999. So, this is a third-person shooter, and as you can see with the gameplay, it just looks like it would be a really fun game to bring into the modern era. The industry is saturated with so many shooting games that I feel like this would be a breath of fresh air. This would be able to stand out amongst the rest, especially if it's brought onto the Nintendo Switch, considering we don't have many shooters for that system. My 8th choice to be remade is South Park. Now, that's a bit weird. There was a recent South Park game, Fractured But Whole, that was released not too long ago, but like I said, if the gameplay mechanics are significantly different, then it is an exception to the rule. South Park was originally released for PlayStation in North America on September 30th of 1999 and on Nintendo 64 on December 12th of 1998. Now, South Park is a first-person action-adventure game, and it is just ridiculous. It is what South Park is. Now, like I said before, the whole point of bringing these games forth is for us 90s kids to relive our nostalgic games. So, instead of having to kind of pull out your Nintendo 64, dust it off, and put in South Park, what you could do is you could have them remake it and just kind of throw it up on your modern console that you have plugged into your TV already, and that would just be a whole lot easier. Now, if you're looking at the graphics that we have on screen, just imagine. Now, this is what you're going to have to do with all of these. You're just going to have to imagine what these games would look like with such enhanced graphics. Use the Reignited Trilogy and original Spyro Trilogy as a guideline to show you how different the original games from this era could look by being brought forward with the technical advancements that we have made in video gaming. Now, this game I put on the list specifically because of how fun it is and really how bad the graphics looked back then and how easily I think that they could kind of remake it the way they did Spyro, because it's got a specific art direction that they use. It's not like they would have to take it from what it looks like here on screen and make it look like a realistic game. You don't have to make the people look like people because they use a specific art style. Okay, for my 9th choice, I pick my all-time favorite choice, my front runner of all of these choices to be remade using the Spyro treatment, and that is Donkey Kong 64. Now, Donkey Kong 64 was released on the Nintendo 64 in North America on November 22nd of 1999. It is an action-adventure platformer. It is one of Nintendo's most popular IPs that has not been getting a lot of love lately, and I don't know why, but it is something that I have said on this channel frequently that I think that they need to give him a lot more love. He got DLC in Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, but other than that, he hasn't gotten much since the Wii U. Since the Nintendo Wii was released, we have not had officially King K. Rool in a Nintendo or in a Donkey Kong game. Now, he is in Smash Brothers, but I don't really think that counts. So if they were to remake Donkey Kong 64, that could be their way to introduce K. Rool into the Donkey Kong series for the first time since Rare had left Nintendo's side. Now, I know a lot of people have a problem with Donkey Kong 64. It is my all-time favorite game, but I do understand the problems it has. But I wouldn't be wrong in saying that a lot of those problems could be remedied with a Spyro Treatment style remastering or remaking of the game. So that is my top choice. But for number 10, I am going to go with the one that I have never played before, but a lot of people say it is loads better than the last choice, and that is Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie was released for the Nintendo 64 in North America on June 29th of 1999. It is an action-adventure platformer like the former, developed by Rare, similar as the former. Like I said, I never played it, but everybody else says that it is significantly superior to Donkey Kong 64. Now, I had never played it, but it is a game that I would love to play. I would like to own it as a collector, but if I could get the chance to play it by them remastering it, then I would probably take that route first. So that is going to be it for this video. Let me know what you thought about my decisions, and if you want to add some choices of your own down in the comment section below, feel free to do so. I'm sure I have mentioned some games that you yourself would love to see remade using the Spyro treatment, but I'm also sure you probably heard some from me that you've never either heard of before or never even thought of being remade in that way. So hopefully that will provoke some discussion amongst the fans of these games and some 90s kids, and maybe we can actually relive some of this nostalgia at some point in the near future. Doubtful, but maybe. Make sure to follow us on social media. We have a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I will leave a link down in the description below. If you like this video, give it a like. If not, go ahead and dislike it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified every time we upload a video. We plan to upload a video every Sunday. As I said before, that is going to be it for me today. Go forth, discuss, but remember, don't take life too seriously.